Hello, this is Brett Atterbury of Pro-Life Magazine, and today I'm very honored to have with me Kelsey Hazzard of an organization called Secular Pro-Life. Hello, Kelsey.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you for joining us. I really appreciate you taking the time for this.
Oh, absolutely.
So, Secular Pro-Life, that's a very interesting name of an organization. Can you tell us a little bit, give us some background how Secular Pro-Life started?
Sure. Secular Pro-Life got started in 2009. At the time, I was in my last year of college, and I'd been involved in some pro-life work as a college student. I went to the University of Miami. And Miami is, a pretty secular part of the country, and so, we were always secular doing our college work. And then when I came up to the March for Life that year in 2009, I was just really surprised by, it was a completely different demographic. It was very, very Catholic, and I just realized that, wow, if this is just so different from what I'm used to, and if the Catholic sort of image is the first thing that someone would see, they would have a completely wrong impression of what the pro-life movement is, because the pro-life movement is so much more than that. And so that's really how, that's what sparked the idea for Secular Pro-Life. And like I said, I was young and I didn't know what I was doing, and I just sort of threw up a website, but it was a build it and they will come kind of thing, because all these people started coming out of the woodwork like, oh my gosh, I thought I was the only one. Yeah. And we still get emails like that on a weekly basis. I thought I was the only one. It's a constant theme. And since then, we've just been growing. One of the things that we were doing early on was creating brochures, because I noticed, as a college student trying to work with a pro-life group, that a lot of the literature that was available had religious aspects to it, like maybe it would have some really good data on a particular topic that was useful to us, but then it would have at the very end some Bible verse, and that would make it unusable for a large segment of the college population. So one of the first things we were doing was trying to create secular literature, and that's still up on our website, and you can just go and download it for free. And that's one of the first things that we did. But since then, we've expanded to doing a lot of other things. We've developed various projects, which you can see on the website. One of which is one of my personal favorites is abortionsafety.com. Which is a website that catalogs information about malpractice lawsuits and health code violations, things of that nature at abortion centers, to warn women, really, about what's going on, and give them a heads up, and hopefully give them some alternatives to abortion. That's one of the things that we've been working on. We've developed a great Facebook group. We have a blog that gives news and commentary every weekday. I mean, it's just exploded in the last few years, and I couldn't be happier.
Well, I think it's very interesting, and I would imagine that many religious people who are pro-life, when they hear what you're talking about, might be a little surprised and think, it's unfair. When you think about it, a lot of religious people might think, oh, people that aren't religious would almost by definition be pro-choice. And obviously you and your organization prove that that's not the case. So can you tell me a little bit, what is exactly the secular pro-life position towards abortion, and what is the key difference between the secular position and the religious position?
One thing that I have found in my years of pro-life advocacy is that it is very rare for someone to be pro-life for only one reason. It's very rare for someone to say, I believe in whatever that verse is from Jeremiah about God knit me together in my mother's womb, and that's it. That's my only reason. Like that it never happens. So I've found that for most pro-life people, whatever their religious affiliation may be, it usually comes down to the same arguments. It usually comes down to the right to life being a human right. And the concept of a human right is that it doesn't have to be earned. If a human right has to be earned, that defeats the entire purpose of declaring human rights. So the question then becomes, how are we, why should we treat a particular class of humans, unborn humans, as not human for purposes of human rights? I think the burden really is on those who support abortion. We have this scientific evidence that we are talking about a human individual, so why should this human individual not count? And the rationales they've come up with are just frankly not convincing. And in particular, what troubles me is that a lot of the rationales they come up with, if they were to be applied consistently, would threaten the rights of far more than just the unborn. They talk about you have to be independent of another person's body. All right, well, our conjoined twin people. We did a video about that with a wonderful family up in Canada. These sweet conjoined twin girls who were kind enough to be featured in this video for us. Or you have to be conscious. Well, is it okay to kill me while I'm sleeping or while I'm in a coma? It just becomes nonsensical when you try to apply it consistently. Right. But they don't try to apply it consistently because they start from the conclusion, like they want to have abortion be okay. They want it to be okay because they believe that women will never succeed without it. Which I find offensive as a woman, but that's another issue entirely.
Another interview we'll do another day.
Oh my gosh! But they start from abortion has to be okay, and then they try to come up with justifications for it, and they just don't work. Interesting.
I'm sure that especially in the United States today, and certainly in many countries around the world, where secularism is more common. What are the main kind of argument? If you're running into a secular person who's using the kind of argumentation that you were just discussing, what have you found? What have you found to be the best strategies so far that can move somebody, a secular person, from a pro-choice attitude over to the pro-life position?
I think the first thing that you have to do is counter the myth that all pro-life people are religious. You have to, because that has been a really deliberate strategy. If you look at the writings of Bernard Nathanson, he was at one time a pro-choice atheist who was an abortionist and who was one of the co-founders of what became NARAL. And he later turned to the pro-life position as a result of viewing an ultrasound. And he then came forward and started talking about some of the strategies that the early abortion movement had used, one of which was very deliberately to make it a religious issue. The people behind NARAL wanted it to be, Catholic priests versus the great enlightened abortion movement. That was their framing of the story, and they had the media behind them, so it worked. And we still see the repercussions of that even today. So the number one thing that you have to do is show demographically, really, show that you, a secular person, can be a pro-life person. You have to make that something that they can envision. And part of that really is a question of organization. Because, as I said, secular pro-life has only been around since 2009. But so often people come to us saying, oh, I thought I was the only pro-life atheist. I thought I was we see that again and again and again. And by connecting these people with one another, that really is the key step, because then they feel more empowered to be public about the fact that they're pro-life, because they know they're not the only one.
Is it because, in that hesitation to date, do you think, is it because typically a secular person, if they were pro-life and they immediately started talking with someone about pro-life, they would be afraid that they would immediately be labeled religious?
They'd be perceived as religious. Yes, that is, I think, a big part of the hesitation to talk about it. What we've seen from Gallup polling, though, is that about 1 in 5 non-religious Americans will call themselves pro-life. It's probably more than that, but will call themselves pro-life as 1 in 5.
Yeah, that's an interesting statistic. I would have, without knowing, I would have guessed it would be lower than that. But you know, to me, 1 in 5. I mean, that's a good start, don't you think?
It is a good start. It's still far lower than just the American population at large.
Yes.
But again, that is the result of a deliberate strategy that's been going on for decades now. So it really shouldn't surprise us.
Sure.
And now, and I don't think that the pro-life movement has really combated that new strategy too much, because probably they just felt, well, okay, they can have their atheists. The atheists are only a small fraction of the population. Whatever, but it is important, and particularly when we're looking at the younger generation. I'm 24. Actually, by the time this airs, I'll be 25. I'm about to have a birthday today. When you look at the 18 to 29, that sort of range is what you see in the polling. 18 to 29-year-olds are both the most pro-life generation since Roe v. Wade and the least religious. And we see those results very consistently. So the pro-life movement really does need to acknowledge that reality and start making a deliberate effort to reach out to secular people. And that's really the purpose of secular pro-life, and the pro-life movement has welcomed our approach, with some exceptions, but I think overall pro-life people really do, even if they are personally religious, look at what secular pro-life movement.
It's very interesting. So I know your organization's been around only a few years, but what activities, you mentioned a little bit when we started some of the activities that you do, you mentioned brochures, but what are the kind of activities that you do and that you've found so far to be most effective in reaching out to that fairly large population of secular folks in the United States? And do you do anything outside of the United States?
Good questions. Well, first of all, most of what we do is web-based. We've done a lot of work reaching out to people on social media, and our Facebook page is now up to over 3,300. By the time this interview runs, it'll probably be even higher. But aside from the work that we've been doing online and developing various websites and publications, we do go out in the field, so to speak. We've spoken at various universities. Student pro-life groups love to have us because, as I've said, the young people on college campuses realize probably better than anyone the value of a secular approach. So that's one of the big things we've been doing. And in the coming months and years, we are certainly hoping to expand, hoping to do some webinars and things of that nature. That's
fantastic. Are you all volunteer-based right now?
Yes. I probably should have mentioned that at the beginning. All of this is done without any paid staff. Okay. We have a shoestring budget, and it's mostly young people, young professionals, students, grad students who are giving their time to make this work. And given that, I think that what we've been able to accomplish is pretty impressive. If you don't mind my bragging.
Well, I agree. It is impressive. And for people that would be interested in supporting your organization, how can they go about doing that?
Our website is secularprolife.org. No hyphens in that. It's just one big word. And you can also find us easily on Facebook and on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you, and we're really easy to get in touch with, and I'd be happy to answer anyone's questions. If you have questions for me, my email is just info@secularprolife.org.
Okay. And if someone's interested in supporting you financially through a donation, can they do that through your website?
They can, yes.
Okay. That's fantastic. Well, Kelsey, I appreciate your time today. It's been very informative. I think your organization and everything you're doing will be some new information to a lot of people in the pro-life movement. but I think you're going to get a lot of support from those in the pro-life movement, and we're very excited about what you're doing and wish you the best of luck, and thank you again for taking your time today.
Well, thank you, Brett.
Take care.
Bye.